That's all I have to say about the ABC killer. Hello everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Keisha Jackson and it's True Crime Tuesday. I'm feeling good today. I'm not feeling great about the story I'm going to tell you guys. It's a heavy one. Let me get through the formalities first. If you have not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Also give me a thumbs up. It's really not going to hurt anyone. True Crime Tuesdays is a segment that I started doing because I felt inspired by a fellow YouTuber. I will be doing my makeup while telling you true South African crime stories. Last week on True Crime Tuesdays, I spoke about Daisy DeMalka. Her story was hectic, but not as hectic as the person I'm speaking about today. Now, without further ado, today's story is about none other than the ABC killer, also known as Moses Sithole. Viewer discretion is advised. The story that I will be telling you today has scenes of violence, assault, sexual abuse, and it's just not for sensitive viewers. Now, let's talk about Moses Sithole, who was born on the 17th of November 1964 in a town called Vosloorus here in Gauteng. Moses was born to his parents Sophie and Simon Sithole. He was one of 5 children. He was fourth born. Moses and his family grew up very poor because of the conditions in South Africa back in apartheid, so they didn't grow up with much. His father was the sole provider for the family. His mom was a stay-at-home mom, looked after the kids. When Moses was 6 years old, his father unfortunately passed away, and this left the family destitute because his mom couldn't financially support them, which led to her abandoning the younger kids and them falling into the foster care system. It was reported that Moses was sexually abused within the system, and that is what sparked his hatred for women. I'm assuming also the fact that he was abandoned by his mom wasn't a great start for him. So Moses was unfortunately getting sexually abused and mentally abused in the system, and he ran away to move in with his older sibling Patrick. I don't know if Patrick organized him a job, but he then got a job working in the Johannesburg gold mines, and he was relatively young, but reports say that people that knew Moses said he was very handsome and charismatic, and even though he wasn't well educated, he was very smart, mild-mannered, and never came off as someone violent. Years passed by that Moses was working and just doing his thing, living with his brother, and he had met a girl. Now, I read that his relationships were never solid. They were very erratic and short-lived. They never really lasted a long time. I'm not sure why they never lasted a long time. Moses had met a lovely young lady. They never disclosed her name, but they did disclose her sister's name, and her sister's name was Patricia. So he had known Patricia obviously through his girlfriend, and I think he was visiting his girlfriend the one day, and him and Patricia had just gone for a casual walk through the felt, and Moses got very angry. I'm assuming because Patricia refused to do anything with him, and this led to Moses raping Patricia in the middle of a felt. The crime was never reported because back in the apartheid days, women, especially black women, felt very oppressed, and they were scared that nothing would come of the report and no action would be taken on the crime, which is understandable. This gave Moses a gap to commit more crimes, and it made him feel untouchable because he could do this and then never get caught. In the year of 1986, Moses had met yet another girl, and the relationship was also short-lived, but he had gotten close with this girlfriend's sister as well. Her name was Lindiwe, the girlfriend's sister. And unfortunately, the same thing happened to Lindiwe as what happened to Patricia. And Lindiwe was also raped in the veld. This time, Moses had threatened Lindiwe with her life if she had told anyone about his crime. So, of course, Lindiwe didn't report it. In the year of 1989, Moses had met a young lady by the name of Doris. Now, I just want to put a disclaimer out there as well that I am just relaying a story that I have read and researched in my personal interpretation. This is in no way facts about what had happened back in that time. Now, in the 1980s, there weren't many naive young black women in Johannesburg because of the apartheid situation. The African community was very oppressed. They were never given the same rights as white people. I don't really want to touch on this because it's not what the story is about. So he had met Doris in Germiston in 1989, and he had done the same thing with her. He had led her to a veld, threatened her, and then sexually assaulted her. He also told Doris that if she says anything to anyone, he will kill her. And this scared Doris, of course. I mean, it would scare me too. Now, 3 months pass, and Doris spots Moses in town again. But this time, she reports him. She lets the police know that this is the dude that raped me. So that leads to Moses' first arrest in 1989. Moses gets arrested, and at that time, the victim and the accused would travel to the police station together so that the story could link up, I guess. I'm assuming. In the back of the police van, Moses tells Doris, "I should have killed you." So Doris is like scared shitless. Anyway, the case obviously goes to trial. He stands in front of a judge and he claims innocent. The judge, on the other hand, does not believe Moses. She or he, the judge, I'm just going to call the person the judge, believes that Moses had committed this crime and sentences Moses to 7 years behind bars. This outraged Moses. It fueled his hatred even more for women. In prison, I don't know if it's the same everywhere. I don't even know if what I'm saying is true. So, allegedly, in prison, if you are a convicted rapist, you are sort of shunned by your fellow inmates. So Moses didn't have the best stay in prison, if you could even have a good stay in prison. Moses didn't have the best stay in prison. It was said that he was shunned and never fully accepted in prison because of the crime that he committed. It was also said that Moses was a model inmate, and it seemed that he had learned his lesson from being convicted. This led Moses to be released a year earlier than what he was supposed to. So in 1993, Moses was released from prison. Now, while in prison, Moses met a lady by the name of Martha, who was a fellow inmate's sister. Him and Martha fell in love, and when Moses got released in 1993, he moved in with Martha. Martha's family wasn't very happy about this because their daughter was going to be with a convicted rapist, but they learned to accept him because their daughter obviously loved this man. Martha and Moses moved to Attridgeville, which is in Pretoria, and Moses proceeds to work with Martha's brother, so his brother-in-law, doing odd mechanic jobs here and there. Nothing serious, but it seemed that at that time Moses was very settled. After a couple of years, I think it was not even years, after a couple of months of Moses doing mechanic work with Martha's brother, he had grown tired of this and needed to level up, is what I read. He told Martha that he is going to go into town and look for a better job. Towards 1994, the overall atmosphere in South Africa was changing because Nelson Mandela had gotten elected and it was looking up for African people, and there were more opportunities opening up for people that are out of the city, which in turn led to a lot of young, barely educated women to come into Johannesburg, the big city, and look for a job. Moses, knowing this, took advantage of the young people coming into Johannesburg. And in July of 1994, Moses had met a young lady by the name of Marina or Maria. See, I'm not too sure with that because some articles and documentaries say Maria, some articles and documentaries say Marina. So I do apologize if that is wrong. But he met Marina, who was 19 at the time, and she was very optimistic and she was looking for a job, and Moses promised her employment. So Moses went as far as to meet Marina's family and promise her family employment, and he would promise greater things for her. He posed as a very wealthy businessman running a shell organization called Youth Against Human Abuse, which I think is absolutely shocking if you look back at the alleged crimes that he had committed or not committed, as far as he says. So he would tell these young women that he's from a shell organization and he can offer them employment with great opportunities. And I mean, it's the new South Africa. These women are like super excited about this opportunity. They're going to make money. They're going to be able to have a better life. Everyone's going to be great. So poor Marina goes to what she thinks is her first day at work, and Moses accompanies her. They would meet in town where it's a lot of people, so Moses wouldn't really be recognized or pointed out in a crowd sort of thing. And then they would take a taxi, and he would ask the taxi to drop them off at a veld, which wasn't an uncommon thing, still isn't an uncommon thing, because we here in South Africa can pass through our veld. They are walking through the veld, and this is where Moses proceeds to pull out a knife, threaten her with her life, strangle her with her own underwear, and rape her. I could not imagine what was going through this poor young lady's mind when you think you have one of the best opportunities you can get in that time, and then your life ends. It was reported that Moses was very, very clever with the way that he would kill his victims, because he would strangle them, but also he would control their level of consciousness. So he would strangle them to the point where they would fall unconscious, and then bring them back just a little bit, and then strangle them to the point where he would kill them. a week, I think it was a week after he had committed the crime, a fellow policeman was hunting in that same felt on his day off, and he had come across this stench of rotting flesh, and that's when he found Marina's body. The crime was reported and it was put out into the public that this had happened, but Moses hadn't committed any more crimes on a large scale to make it, at that time, to make it as public knowledge as it would get to. In the following 4 months of 1994, Moses would go on to assault and kill 5 more women who unfortunately could not even be identified. Of course, it struck a nerve in the South African police force, and they were, I can't even say hot on his heels, because they were just adamant to catch him, but Moses was too clever about how he did it and when he did it. Moses became extremely arrogant. It was reported that he became extremely arrogant in the manner that he would commit these crimes, meaning he would often take multiple victims back to the same felt when he knew that police would find a previous victim there. For example, police would be in the Johannesburg morgue trying to identify a woman, and then they would receive a call that a body was found in the exact same felt that they had just proceeded from. This made Moses feel like he was in even more power and that he could manipulate people easily and get away with murder. Moses would go on to do this from it being once a month to twice a month to once a week to 2 victims a week. In May of 1995, Moses had visited a other charity. I'm not sure of the name. I think it had something to do with hope. It was a home for rehabilitating abused women and abused children and things like that. In May of 1995, he proceeded to visit this charity and he met a lady by the name of Tryphena. Now, this is the name that I had learned from a documentary I watched, but when I went onto Wikipedia and searched through all these victims, which I cannot even mention all their names because there are so many of them, I saw that it was Esther. But in the documentary, the lady that was Tryphena's friend was Esther. So I don't know if Wikipedia had misled information or what it was, but I'm just going to go off of Tryphena. And he met her at the workplace and her friend Esther had witnessed their meeting. Not long after that, Moses had told her that he has a job opportunity for her. There's more money, there's better opportunity. He can help her out. She must just send him his application and she'll come in. And he'll come and discuss everything with her parents to give her parents peace of mind and let her parents know that she's going to be safe. And Tryphena then gives her application into Moses, and the next day it was reported that Moses called Tryphena to say, "Congratulations, you've been accepted for this job. I'm going to come and meet with your parents and then I'm going to take you around and show you what you'll be doing." The next day he goes to the victim's home, which is where I feel that you might have some serious issues, because you going to this victim's home, you are having sparberry or whatever it was that they were having, juice, with the victim's family and the victim herself, and you are proclaiming that you're going to keep their child safe, and she's going to have multiple opportunities and a good salary. Anyway, the following day, after meeting with the parents, he meets Tryphena in city center where it's busy. He then takes a taxi. They get dropped off in a felt as per the norm of what he was doing, and he proceeds to violently rape and strangle Tryphena. Now, the next day, she doesn't show up at work, and it's pretty normal to her friend Esther because she had seen Moses approach Tryphena about a job opportunity. So she had thought nothing of it, like, oh great, she got the job. She had said, quote, she wasn't very happy about Tryphena getting the job opportunity because she thought she deserved it as well, end quote. Esther tries to reach Tryphena and she can't get through to Tryphena, and she thinks this is very weird, you know. Within this time, please bear in mind that Moses is continuing to commit these crimes, and women are continuing to be found in the areas of Attridgeville, Boxburg, and Cleveland in the same felts. When I say that, I mean like he will capture one woman in Attridgeville, murder her in that felt, and then if he captures another woman in Attridgeville, that person gets murdered in the exact same felt. Which is why police say he was very arrogant about how he did things. In this time that her friend puts out the missing persons report, Moses goes on to murder a lot more victims, and then gets even more arrogant about it by phoning one of the victims' grandmother and saying, now you will be walking over the victim's name. Now you will be walking over her grave. It seemed to me like he wanted to be caught, but also wanted to play a game while committing even more murders. The police are then releasing information that there is a serial killer, so women should be wary and keep themselves safe, and they shouldn't accept anything from anyone that they don't really know. Now, they file the missing police report for Tryphena, and her friend describes the person that had come and seen her, which is Moses. And the police only link Moses to this because of his previous conviction. Police then proceed to go to Moses' house, where him and Martha reside in Attridgeville, and find that he is not there. So he now knows the police's footsteps and where their investigation would lead to. And he is 2 steps ahead of them at all times. In one of the cases, Moses had actually given up his brother-in-law's name, which led his brother-in-law to become interrogated. He asked his brother-in-law to explain the interrogation to him and give all the details so that Moses could know where the police were in their investigation, and this would give him a jump start in a way. So police now know that Moses might be guilty of these crimes because he is running away. While running away, Moses continues to commit crimes like these. In October of 1995, Moses calls into a journalist at the Sun newspaper by the name of Tasman De Beer. He then proceeds to tell Tasman De Beer that he is the murderer the police are after. Of course, Tasman doesn't take this news very heavy because she thinks it could just be a kid claiming this, so she's not going to take it very seriously. And Moses proceeds to contact her, and she says, well, if this is true, then you have to tell me something about the murders or the victims, something that no one else would know. Moses then says, okay, I'll tell you exactly where I had left a body that I recently murdered. He proceeds to tell Tasman that he had left a body in this felt at this exact location. Tasman then takes the tip to the police, and the police go to the location Moses had given her. There were multiple bodies there that were at different times of decomposition or decomposing. They were decomposing differently. There was a fresh body that he seemed to have just left there, not even a day prior. And then there was a body that was decomposed to the point that it was just a skeleton. The police had made this public knowledge, and the crimes were so violent that Nelson Mandela himself even made a plea to the public to stay vigilant and stay safe and to ensure that this man would be found and captured. This angered Moses because another woman had betrayed him in his eyes. Tasman reports that her and Moses had developed a relationship, nothing crazy, but they had developed a relationship over the phone, and it had hurt her feelings that he was upset with her about giving away this information. Moses's photo was put on all newspapers and all news, and he was now a well-known person to all these crimes. In the same month of October, after Tasman had let the police know and they were trying to get hold of Moses, Moses had just been walking around town, and he was noticed and identified by a lady, and she had called authorities. And that is when Moses was captured. I'm laughing because he is insane. He was captured, and he then proceeded to attack a constable with a hatchet. He proceeded to attack a constable with a hatchet. The police force, rightly so, attacked him, and they had shot him in the leg. I'm going to go back to Tasman now, right? The journalist from The Sun that was having conversations daily with Sithole. In her interview, she had said, quote, "When hearing the news about him getting shot, all I was hoping was, don't let him die." End quote. So she was feeling so shocked that he had gotten shot. She also reported that she did feel sorry for Moses because she saw a tormented child inside of him. So he was shot and captured. Finally, goodness gracious, in October of 1995, Moses Sithole was captured by South African police. Now, because he was shot, he was transported to a local hospital nearby. This is crazy. The police force were so afraid that someone would kill Moses before he could stand trial. I've heard stories that township justice is a really scary thing, but also in most cases well deserved. The police force had assigned a SWAT team to guard Moses at the hospital because they were so scared that the public would get a hold of him and give him justice. In hospital, it was confirmed that Moses tested positive for HIV/AIDS. They don't know when he had contracted it, but I'm hoping that the ladies that had been assaulted by him and are still alive didn't contract it as well. Unfortunately, his wife, Martha, and daughter also tested HIV positive. There is not much information on his wife and his daughter, and what they had thought about it. I'm assuming that Martha, his wife, might have been extremely disappointed in her husband's actions, because I would have been, but nothing was reported. I think that they want to keep their lives separate and private, and I respect that. Now, in the same month of October, Moses was taken to stand trial. He admitted to killing the victims that they had found, and Moses was sentenced to 2,140 years behind bars. Now remember how this takes place just as apartheid falls and Nelson Mandela comes into presidency. This is also around the same time that the death penalty falls out of place. This is where the judge had told Moses, quote, if the death penalty still stood, you would have been sentenced to death. The judge then told Moses that he needs to spend 930 years behind bars before he could ever be eligible for parole. Well done to the South African legal system. He was sentenced to serve his time in CMAX at Pretoria Central Prison, which is now called Goshimampur, and that is where they transported him. Bear in mind, still with his SWAT team, because they were like, this guy is going to get some sort of township justice somewhere along the line. So Moses is off to serve his time at Goshimampur, and a fellow inmate manages to get a camera into the prison and just have a general chat with Moses. He then asks Moses why Moses committed these crimes. And Moses answers him by saying, quote, I was cross, I was hurt, and I was aggressive. He asked Moses if Moses did it for money, and Moses said no, he hadn't done it for money. And then he touched on his previous conviction. Remember the one he spent 6 years in prison for? And he had said that he should have killed that girl because that would have never have had a previous conviction on his name. I don't know how true that statement is. He then proceeds, this is where it gets hectic. He then proceeds to tell this fellow inmate, who he has no idea is recording this, or does have an idea, I have no clue. When I watched the footage, it was like, the camera was placed over here, and Moses was sitting on the opposite side, and the person that was conducting the interview was on sort of my side. So I don't know if Moses was aware of it or not, but he tells this inmate that there are way more victims than what he was convicted for, allegedly. Moses was convicted of 37 murders, 40 rapes. Now he claims that there are 72 victims. I just want to quickly clarify something. These crimes took place over 1 year. He claims to have raped and murdered 72 women from July 1994 to October 1995. Can we take a moment to understand how many victims were killed within a year? That is more than 2 victims a week. He says that, quote, I will never tell authorities where the rest of these victims are. End quote. While Moses was in prison after he had gotten convicted, a protest began outside of the prison, from what I've read in my research, stating that chants were happening, women were protesting, everyone felt free again because they could continue with their lives. Like I said before, his wife and daughter were never approached by media from what I've researched. I don't think they want to be. So nothing, why do I do this? Nothing about his family was really said. The ladies that had been raped by him in the 1980s had testified against him in court, and I'm assuming they felt all the relief in the world to get that off their chest. Not much was said about Moses's demeanor in court. I don't even know if there's any footage of that. It just went really quiet after he had been convicted. Ooh, I'm liking my lip. My lippy dippy whippy. What do you guys feel about my look? After the most terrible story that you might ever hear. Moses is still alive. He is 55 years old. He isn't in Goshimampur anymore. They had moved him to a prison in Bloemfontein. It is said that he is still a model inmate. He doesn't get involved in much. I think he is just doing his time, but you never know, he might be manipulating everybody there. I just want to bring attention to the gender-based violence situation that is currently going on in our country. I want ladies to be safe. If you've ever been assaulted in any way, do not be quiet about it. Please speak up. That's the only way things are going to change, is if we speak up and we are not suppressed and the rest of that. This story was extremely heavy for me to tell. I do apologize if I felt or seemed disassociated with it. My personal opinion. Woo, I get to tell you my personal opinion. I think that from what I've read and what I have researched, he is a very tormented individual, coming all the way from his past and how his mom had left him and how he had been taken advantage of and sexually abused by people around him. And ladies back in that time didn't deserve to go through any more than what they were going through already. That's all I have to say about the ABC killer. I hope you guys enjoyed the story today. I mean, I don't think you can enjoy something like this, but I hope you found it interesting. I hope my makeup was therapeutic to watch. Do you like my look? Because I do. This blue is fire. I just want to remind you that I will list all the products that I use in the description box down below. I know last week I didn't list prices and places to find them because I feel like it is now common knowledge where we can find affordable, cruelty-free makeup. Discam is one of the best places to do that. I just want to let you know that none of the brands I use sponsor me. This is purely my personal opinion on them and I love them. Please don't forget to subscribe. Also give me a thumbs up. A share would be nice too. A comment. Let me know. Yes, let's start doing that. Let's start talking. Let me know if you like these things and if there are any South African crime stories that you need to bring to my attention. I don't want to touch on anything happening right now. I will see you next week for another True Crime Tuesday. And I hope you're staying safe. Don't forget we're having a pandemic. Yes, we can smoke and drink, but please do it responsibly. I don't want to go into another odd lockdown. Be responsible, be safe, be vigilant. And I'll see you guys next time.